Hello, and welcome to another video in the Blade series. Today, Scott and I are going to discuss how one well-placed rock can take down the biggest giant. Over the past few days, those of us in the tech industry have been following a rather important story. Whether it was Google, Microsoft, Amazon, or Meta, it was bound to happen eventually. One of the giants was going to fall. To avoid confusion, Scott and I thought it might be good to set the record straight on exactly what happened and why. Did Google really get breached, or is it more complicated than that? As always, to help separate myth from reality, Scott, I'm going to lean on your expertise.
Sure.
So let's go through a few questions to set the record straight. And the first one is, who is telling us that Google got breached?
Right. Well, we heard some rumblings in the community, but nothing real. But then actually the Google Threat Intelligence Group came out and said, hey, we lost some user data after a successful hack attack against our databases. So they were very transparent on what's going on and what happened and so on and so forth.
Wow, so they owned it.
Yeah, good for them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
So what was the nature of the hack on Google?
Well, what happened was a group attacked an internal database, right? They weren't, like a lot of times we see the bad guys going after email, or this one was actually an attack onto a database. And it's thought to be associated with the Shiny Hunters, which is the name of the group. They're also known as UNC 6040. And what happened is the data was stolen from a Salesforce instance inside of Google. Now, you and I both know what Salesforce is. Anyone who does sales anymore knows Salesforce. It's an online platform to coordinate, making your calls and selling stuff to people and tracking those sales. So it's an online system totally separate from Google. Google does use it, and what they use it for is they use it for prospective Google customers. So the type of data that would have been in that instance would have been prospective Google customers.
Gotcha.
Okay, so it'll be people, names, addresses, phone numbers, all that stuff of those certain people that happen to be there. Now, this campaign has been going on for a while, and it's hit companies like Adidas, Cisco, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Dior, Tiffany, Qantas. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And these shiny hunters have been hitting every one of these groups. Oh, wow. And what they're trying to do is it's a ransomware attack. Essentially, they get into the network, and we'll talk a little bit how did they do that here in a second. But once they get in the network, they want to find some data that looks really important, either lock it up and ransom it, right, and make you pay for it, or just steal it and go sell it somewhere.
And
right?
Pray they can make some money off it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the idea. Maybe it's pennies on a record, but steal 1 million records, that's 1 million pennies.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pennies.
Make a little money.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did it happen?
Well, it's a great story, actually, how that people need to understand. Even though Google's pretty much the best secured private entity on the planet in most people's ideas. They are very good at what they do security-wise. And so how did it happen? Well, where's always the link? Where's the weakest link? Always.
Yeah,
it's always the user. It's always the end user. And what happened was the attackers used something called vishing, which is voice phishing, okay? And it's a type of social engineering technique where I would call up a Google employee and try to get them to grant me access into Salesforce. So it'd be, hi John, this is Scott in the IT department. Hey, we're not sure, we're seeing some unusual behavior coming from your computer. Can you verify your Salesforce password? Folks, it's sometimes that easy.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. And then that person would have gotten the password for Salesforce, then they would have raise their credential level up where they could do other things like dump databases, take databases, and so on. So all it took was one user giving up their password and information to the hackers on a telephone, and that's how Google was hacked.
Wow, that's insane. It's so funny. We do talk about the end user is often the thing. So.
Yeah. Well, really what they did was they got a hold of the end users, and then they were able to roll out this fake-looking Salesforce application, and they were asking people, install this new Salesforce, something that had the right logo and everything on it, and people would go, okay, bam, now they're had.
And now they're done.
And it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger until the Google guys, again, to their credit, caught it before it got worse. The only thing they got away was this database of prospects, as we would say. It's not like they lost the source code for Gmail or something like that.
Yeah, intern Bob no longer works there if that happens. So.
Exactly. Not too many people would be working there if something like that happened, because that's awful.
So I guess what type of data was compromised?
Yeah, it's just this largely publicly available information. It'd be like if you open up a phone book. Okay, I want to sell my lawnmower to a lawnmower businesses. So I'll go look up at all the lawnmower businesses, right? That's what Salesforce does. You'll say, okay, who all mows lawns in my area? And it'll give you a list of people that you can grab and export out as a bunch of prospects. And then you could sell, market to them.
Right.
Send them brochures, call them, stop by their house, threaten them, whatever you sales guys do.
So, we are sneaky.
Yeah, so that's what happens. So that information isn't like, the one bit of that information I'm a little bit concerned about. And I know you and I talked about this. There's one section in that record that they would have gotten as well, would have had the basic business contact information, company name, phone number. There's also a field in there called notes. Now, generally in application development, that notes field will accept any input at all you want to put into it. A lot of times it'll accept graphics. It'll accept anything up to a certain number of characters, sometimes 255, sometimes a lot bigger number. So that's where, and I know salespeople very well, I know users very well, they're using those notes fields to put in things that they shouldn't. Credit card numbers, for example, social security numbers, other things that I can't even think of right now in those note sections. And that's the part of this. Would be interesting to know, what was in those note fields. Did Google have that field locked down? Did Salesforce do something? Because that would where, if I was the bad guy in this sense, that's what I'd be looking for. Because all we really have is publicly available information. Maybe there's something in those notes that we don't know about. Maybe one group in Google had just like a work group practice. They put like the cell phone numbers of their people in those. Who knows? It could be anything. Yeah. So that's my biggest concern.
Yeah, I was after the encryption keys, and there was one guy putting them in the notes field.
Yeah, so. Yeah. And that's what and that's what happens. I know it is what it is, but you do have to keep good records, so on and so forth. But this is where it's important for you to have control over that information, and the Google folks should be able to ask them what was in that notes field, and they should tell me exactly what was in that notes field. If they look at me blankly, then they say, "Oops, we forgot to look at the notes field." Yeah. And that's something we've seen before where some shenanigans has taken place on note fields within an application. So that's the biggest one I'm thinking about. They're saying that even though they were marketing towards people that sell ads and that kind of stuff, that no payment information was exchanged. It was only this database that just had the records. And to this point, everything they're saying makes sense, and I tend to believe Google when they say these things. And so, but I'd just be kind of curious about what's in those notes fields and see what else is out there. You never know what somebody could put in those fields. Anything. I mean, anything.
Oh, yes. As a salesperson, I've never put stuff in the notes field that I shouldn't. So anyway, let's change the subject before somebody starts asking me questions. What does the industry think about Google's cybersecurity practices?
Right. Well, Google is widely considered that having the most robust cybersecurity program in the world. They have the great security practices. They're generally viewed as an industry benchmark. It's a top tier type of situation. These guys spent a lot of money on cybersecurity. And you think about it, Google, everybody knows Google. When was the last time Google was hacked?
Yeah.
Or had a bug in their software that had to be patched immediately? Right. Or, people were ransomware, because that just doesn't happen. And it's not magic. It's because they have a very strong cybersecurity program and they have a really good training program, which I would imagine would be picked up a little bit more now, and talking a little bit more about the vishing to make sure that you're, talking to the person you think you're talking to.
Yeah. Goes to show you that the thing that most owners of businesses think is the least important, which is end-user cybersecurity training, is probably the most important.
It probably is
to start with.
Nowadays, we've got the edge, nailed down. With our technologies and such. You have to be uber hacker or a government entity to get through some of the security that we have set up. But yes, it doesn't matter if you require 40-character passwords. If some end user gives it up, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if intern Bob. Yeah. Which I like to pick on intern Bob. He's probably a nice guy.
Well, I like those, and I also like the people that I sit down their desk and I pull open the top right drawer and there's a sticky note with their password right on it. Or it's on
flip the keyboard upside down.
I've shown that to several people just by sitting down at their desk and just looking around. You can get some pretty good password guesses just by sitting there.
Yeah. The picture of their dog. Hey, what's your dog's
name? Yeah, what's
your
dog? Exactly. And Yo, hey, my birthday's in July too. What day is yours? Yeah, all that social engineering stuff that we get to do when we try to trick people so we can train them.
Yep, and that's where that vishing came from.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
a social engineering
It's
thing.
just something I've seen vishing happen, at the DEF CON conferences and such, and we would set up teams where we'd have to vish a big company like one of these, and it was a race to see who could do it first. And the team I was on, we did really good. We got into a big company. And got some credentials, and that's where we stopped. We got the credentials. Didn't want to go any further because it's kind of a gray.
Now you're in the gray area.
Now you're a criminal. So we would get those, but it only took us like 47 minutes to get somebody in a big Fortune 50 company to give up their info, and we were second. The first company hit somebody on their first call and got it in like 3 minutes.
Oh, good grief.
And it was all just simply like we were kidding around earlier. It's like, hi, this is Scott from IT. We're seeing weird stuff coming from your computer. No. And what they should have did is hang up the phone and then call IT.
Yeah.
Are you guys calling me? You're not, huh? Well, guess what? Somebody's trying to vish
We're on
me.
a list.
Yeah, I'm getting vished right now. So, and it's tough.
There's your pointer.
Yeah.
Hang up and call.
Exactly. Hang up and call. Hang up and walk down to the IT department.
Yeah.
Anything. Just, that's the easy way to find out and not get nailed by this. Especially if it's something you're not expecting, a voice you've never heard before, a name. Well, you don't want to trust that because we would do enough research. We would know who the IT director was and who that is. So we'd know those names that we could drop too. So don't trust that either.
Yeah, I'm John from the IT department.
yeah, he is.
So
that's the best thing to do if you're not sure, even if you have the little twinge, this is weird. Stop what you're doing and go ask for help. No one's ever going to get on you for being wrong when you thought you were being hacked.
Yeah,
Promise. Yeah. I mean, we want to know. We want to know what's going on out there.
Your boss isn't going to fire you for asking and saving the company.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess one of the big questions that comes out of this is, what are the industry leaders saying about what's going on?
Well, there's a lot of people out there, and it's still, kind of a developing story and stuff. But William Wright, who's the CEO of Closed Door Security, mentioned that no organization is immune to cybercrime, regardless of size, and that all organizations are vulnerable, which I agree with 1,000%. It doesn't matter if you're a two-person shop or a 2 million person shop. You have a target, and you can be attacked in the same manner. And no matter what the size is. So you have to be aware of this and don't ever go with the whole idea, it could never happen to me. We call that security by obscurity.
Yep.
That doesn't work. Everyone knows you're there and you have a target, and if you haven't been attacked, you will be. You're just on the list somewhere to get there. So, Jamie Akhtar, who's the CEO of CyberSmart, he also noted that a breach can happen to one of the wealthiest and best defended companies like Google. It can happen to everyone. And he also talked about the breach, the possibility of the breach stemming from social engineering, and he was right. It was vishing, social engineering. We've had a few other people who checked in. The folks over at Huntress, they said that critical supply chain risks posed by third-party platforms and the need for businesses to rigorously vet and continually monitor all vendors with access to their data. Okay, and that's always a good point. You got to know where your data is, who's housing it, who's in control of it all the time. So I ask people, okay, where is your data? It's like, well, it's up there, I guess. It's up in the cloud somewhere.
It's in the cloud.
You have some data here, you have some data here, you have some data here. You need to know where all those are at. That's kind of where he's coming from. Here's a quote from, Scott Schaefer, CISO of Blade Technologies. He stated that fully 90% of computer users should not be allowed anywhere near a computer or a telephone. Have them dig ditches or something. I don't remember saying that, but kind of agree with that too.
I was about to say, it sounds to me like we have another case of the problem between the keyboard and the chair.
Exactly. And I always say the only secure computer in the world is one 6 feet under in a hole, and I'm still not sure about that one.
Yeah, we have a theory around here that some users should be relegated to a pencil and a piece of paper.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I digress.
that's a story for another day.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess we can put every single layer of defense known to man,
right,
and one single well-placed rock, or in this case, phone call, can knock you dead.
Yep. Yeah, you could be the Department of Defense. You could be the Pentagon. Whoever it is, yes. One person getting fished can take you down. So you got to watch out for that.
Yep. Well, Scott, As always, thank you so much for your insight and your expertise.
Pleasure as always.
Thanks to all of you for watching. This is John and Scott from Blade. Take it easy.